Hello there, and welcome to the 5th episode of the VictorPrep Vocab podcast. This is Sam, and as usual, we'll start with the words from the last time. Those were aggregate, abstemious, castigate, and paradox. I hope you remember what they mean. I'll go through them now. Aggregate, that means to bring together, to collect numerous things into one thing, into one sum or mass. Abstemious, that means to be sparing in eating or drinking, perhaps to be temperate in lifestyle, like a monk, not spending much money, not eating too much or drinking too much. Living an abstemious lifestyle means to live within your means and to not be spending too much money. Castigate, that is to punish severely, to criticize strongly. It's a very strong word. If you castigate someone, they'll really know about it, and you will remember it. Our last word from last time was paradox. A paradox is something that is self-contradictory, a statement or proposition that almost seems absurd or contradicts itself. An everyday paradox, for an example, was you could save money by spending it, or in Hamlet says, I must be cruel to be kind. Those were our 4 words from last time. I hope you remembered them all. If not, as usual, don't worry. Review, listen to the podcast again, write out some example sentences. And like I always say, the more weird the examples are, the more memorable they will be. So make them absurd, make them weird, make them strange, and those images will sit in your mind and you will remember them. So, this week, as usual, we have 4 new words, and let's go. Our 4 new words are intrepid, implacable, inert, and Sully. So, let's start with our first word, which is intrepid. Now, intrepid is spelt I-N-T-R-E-P-I-D, intrepid. And what it means is Indiana Jones. Well, it doesn't literally mean Indiana Jones, but I want you to think about Indiana Jones, because I think most people who are listening to this have seen an Indiana Jones movie or have heard of him. And intrepid means fearless, dauntless. It means someone who can go into those hard, tough situations and just keep on going. They're not going to run away. They're not going to be afraid. They're intrepid. So when I think intrepid, I always think Indiana Jones or even James Bond. Both people are intrepid. They go on adventures. They're extremely brave. The first time I went walking in the jungle, this was actually in Malaysia, and it's true actually, I felt a bit like an intrepid explorer. And I was with my dad at the time. I was quite young. And we felt intrepid for a little while. But as we got deeper into the jungle and it got darker and it got scarier, then we didn't feel so intrepid anymore. And then we just backed out of the jungle and felt good about walking in there for half an hour, but it got a little bit scary. And then we left. A good way of remembering intrepid might be to think trepid, repid. That sounds a bit like rapids, as in whitewater rapids. So to go in the rapids, intrepid, intrapids, in the rapids. To go in the rapids, whitewater rafting, you have to be brave, you have to be fearless. So you could think rapid, rapids. You could also think in, often at the start of words, means negative, like the opposite of what comes next. So intrepid means not something. Trepid is the same as trepidation. Trepidation means to feel fear. So intrepid means not fear, not feeling a fear. So if you remember trepidation means fear, if you know that word, when you see intrepid, you should be reminded of trepidation. So intrepid, inverting the rest of the word, intrepid, brave. Indiana Jones, James Bond, yeah, that's it. Our next word is implacable. That's I-M-P-L-A-C-A-B-L-E, implacable. Now, that means if you describe someone as implacable, they cannot be appeased, they can't be pacified, if you anger someone really badly and they're very angry, they will become implacable. You're trying to get forgiveness from them, you're trying to say sorry, but they don't have any of it. They don't listen to you, they're implacable. Whatever you do, you cannot calm them down, you can't make them forgive you. That's what implacable means. I remember one of my old maths teachers in school. I had a good friend, his name was Stefan, and he accidentally knocked the teacher over because he was trying to pretend he was late for class, and he ran to the door, bust the door open as hard as he could, and in fact the teacher was stood behind the door, as it turned out. So Stefan opened the door, knocked the teacher over, came into the classroom and sat down, and didn't realise he'd actually knocked the teacher over, and he sort of stood up, carried on teaching. But from that moment on, that teacher had so much anger against my friend Stefan that he was totally implacable. He couldn't be appeased. He remembered that forever, I think. Now, how can you remember this word, implacable? Well, im at the start of a word often means the same as in at the start of a word, in. And implacable means not something. Well, placable sounds similar and is from the same root as placate or placation. To placate means to soothe, to calm someone down, to try to appease someone. So if you say implacable, that means not to be able to do that, not soothe or not mollify someone. So implacable means not to be placated, not to be calmed down. So if you know what placate means, implacable then becomes an easy word to remember. Implacable can also mean inexorable, which means unstoppable in a sense. It's coming and you can't stop it. So you could also think implacable, think of the Juggernaut from X-Men. Once he starts moving in this fictional world, you can't stop him. So you can think implacable, think of the Juggernaut, you can't stop it. So you can't, if you annoy the Juggernaut, he's going to be implacable. You can't stop him, you can't make him feel better, he's just going to keep coming for you. Our third word is inert, I-N-E-R-T. Now, inert has a few different meanings that are all somewhat alike, but in general it means having no action, doesn't do anything. So if you think about science and chemistry, there are some chemicals like acids and bases or catalysts that react with other things. Something that is inert doesn't react with anything. So if you mix an inert chemical with other chemicals, the inert chemical, nothing's going to happen with it. It has no reactions with other things. In pharmacology, an inert drug could be a drug that simply does nothing to the patient. So if you have a patient who's a hypochondriac and he keeps coming to the doctor because he wants drugs, the doctor may prescribe him a placebo pill, which is a pill that does nothing. It's just some sugar or something inside. So he gets an inert pill that has no action. And inert in this sense means has no action, has no pharmacological action. So inert in general, if something is inert, has no power, it can't do anything. A person could be described as inert if they have no power to produce change or to produce action. But often you'll hear inert used with chemicals or a substance that doesn't react with anything. That is inert. The doctor gave the hypochondriac man sugar pills. They were totally inert. Inert sounds a little bit like unhurt. And if you could think, unhurt means maybe you took some pills and you were unhurt, they didn't do anything because they were inert. Unhurt. I know that's a pretty bad way of remembering that, but I couldn't think of anything else. So maybe inert, unhurt, doesn't do anything, can't hurt you because it's inert or inactive. Our final word is Sully. S-U-L-L-Y, Sully. Now, to sully means to dirty, or to make impure, or to soil, to stain. So if you have something clean and you make it dirty, say you threw mud all over your mother's white sheets that were hanging off the clothesline in the garden, So you made those sheets dirty. You have sullied the sheets. To sully means to dirty. Sully is often used, actually, along with reputation. So you could say, my reputation for good behaviour was sullied when I was caught smoking in the school bathroom. Perhaps to remember this one, you could think sully, soil, because it means the same as to soil. Or you could also think soil as in dirt, dirty. To soil something is to make it dirty, which also means the same as sully. Now, as usual, I'm going to go over 4 sentences. Each of these sentences is going to refer to one of the words I've gone over today, but not actually to use the word. So think about the words and listen to the sentence, and then think about the word I'm referring to. I couldn't ever get my girlfriend to forgive me after I forgot her birthday. I even bought her a puppy, but it made no difference. After falling into the swamp, my new shirt was covered in ooze and stunk of rotten vegetation. I tried once to make a chemical reaction by adding steel ball bearings to apple juice, but there was absolutely no effect at all. One of my favourite books concerns a man called Thor Heyerdahl, who crossed the Pacific on a tiny raft. He was incredibly brave, because most people thought the trip was impossible, and that he would probably die in doing it. So, those are the 4 sentences. I'm sure you got which word I was referring to in each one. As usual, if you're struggling, please listen again, make those sentences in your mind, pause the recording, think of sentences that concern the word. Because only by being active and doing those tests on yourself, that's how you'll learn the word. Passively learning is one thing, but you have to be active too. You have to really think about my questions, make your own examples in your head, think about times in your life where you've met someone who's implacable, or someone has sullied your reputation. Please send any questions, comments, concerns, tips to my Twitter or email. My Twitter is @samfold, SAMFOLD, and my email is sam.fold@gmail.com. Please don't be shy, don't be a stranger. I'm very friendly and I love doing this. So if it helps you, get in touch and I'll try and make this podcast better each time. So thank you all very much. Oh god, this ran a bit long this time, but whatever. Thank you all. Bye bye. I will speak to you next time.